All this stuff, it doesn't mean anything more. We're all leveled by this. The whole country is.
And people think everything's okay down here, and it's not okay. It's anything but okay.
I feel that our boys and our men and women should come home and focus on us.
We don't need medals. We need the troops home now.
To live on, just move on.
We are going to conduct a 5-day overland movement by marching and convoying from Mobile to New Orleans because we want to bring attention to what has happened and what has not happened on the Gulf Coast, and we want to make a connection in the mind of the general public between what's happened in the wake of Katrina and what's continuing to happen in Iraq.
New arrivals to the warehouse were met with a sobering sight. Over 200 pairs of combat boots, representing U.S. soldiers killed in action in the Iraq War.
My name is Scott Ossing. I work with the American Friends Service Committee in Chicago. The exhibit is Eyes Wide Open. The idea is to open the eyes of our country to the cost, the human cost of the war in Iraq. These are just a fraction of the U.S. soldiers who've been killed. There's also 50 Iraqi civilian shoes over there, representing that for each U.S. military death, 50 Iraqi civilians die as well.
Some of you call it a march, we call it a pilgrimage. A pilgrimage into helping reveal the lives of the brothers and sisters along the Alabama, Mississippi, and Louisiana Gulf Coast.
Because just like the people on the Gulf Coast are being failed by this administration and this government in general, we are also being failed. Our soldiers going to Iraq who shouldn't be there, they need to come back home. Then when they come home, they don't receive the services they should receive. We have high rates of alcoholism. We have high rates of suicide. And guess what? That's exactly what's happening to the people here in the Gulf Coast.
They want to draw attention to the connections between what's going on in Iraq right now, what's going on in the Gulf Coast. And the connections, there are no shortage of connections that we can draw, and you'll hear more about those over the next few days. And I think there's some real political questions here: self-determination. Self-determination for the Iraqis and self-determination for the residents of the Gulf Coast. We have elites in Washington, D.C., in conjunction with some of their cronies right now that are trying to make all the decisions about how the reconstruction of the Gulf Coast is going to happen. And that's not right.
We're going to talk to you about our experiences. I'm going to talk to you about when I was in Iraq. I spent 13 months in Iraq. I was there while Katrina happened. I just got back in October. I watched Katrina unfold on television. Each day and each night I watched human beings, American citizens, being washed ashore in New Orleans. And I heard over and over again that they just didn't have the personnel to take care of the deceased. But I'm in the 42nd Infantry Division, the largest National Guard division in the entire country, who has experience doing this exact same thing at Ground Zero on 9/11. We were the first unit in on that. But instead of being able to react to Katrina, we were in Iraq. We are here to tell you our stories.
I raised my hand 5 times during the course of one career and took an oath, and that oath was to protect and defend the Constitution of the United States from all enemies, foreign and domestic. You know, I went to 8 conflict areas. I never met a single person who was an enemy of the United States Constitution. Not one. I just met people. I just met people, and they put me in circumstances where I had to do a lot of things that I wish I didn't have in my head right now. You know? All of you've been in the military, you've met Mr. Murphy. You know, we're gonna wrestle with Murphy every day, and then we're just gonna keep on going. So be patient. The good news is this is an historic event. This is an historic event, and y'all are like the finest people in the world, you know, and we're doing the right thing. So you really don't get any better than this.
What we are here for is to show this world that just like we can go to the tsunami and help those folk over there, just like we can go to Sri Lanka, just like our men and women and boys and girls can be shot, maimed, and killed in an unjust war, we can help our folk and become an army in this nation along the Gulf Coast of America and go out and rebuild this nation.
I think the perception is going to be positive because one of the things important to understand right now is the majority of the population in this country opposes this war. I'm in a majority position, maybe for the first time in my political life. I'm in a majority position. The majority of the people in this country oppose this war. So I think the perception is going to be positive. I think the reaction is going to be positive. I think people are going to get it when we connect the war with Katrina.
Mobile, Alabama, the official kickoff of the march. Everyone involved in this undertaking had to be feeling a bit of trepidation. Here we were, a ragtag band of peace activists, marching through a kind of enemy territory, the heart of the conservative South, not exactly known for its popular tradition of anti-war sentiment. How would we be received? There was only one way to find out.
Vets for Peace are here to say.
Vets for Peace are here to say.
Bring our families home today.
Bring our families home today.
War will mean that soldiers die.
War will mean that soldiers die.
War will mean that families cry.
War will mean that families cry.
Am I right or wrong?
You're right.
Am I right or wrong?
You're right.
Sound off.
1, 2.
Sound off.
The march this day was a short one, just 3 miles, to test our legs and our logistics, both of which were proved capable. Arriving at our destination, a Vietnam Veterans Monument, we were once again met with the Eyes Wide Open display, but this time it was less of a media spectacle and had the more intimate character of a memorial. One march participant, an Iraq War veteran, came across the father of a fallen soldier just as he discovered his son's name tagged on a pair of boots.
Okay, I'm Michelle Sains, and I'm from Mobile, Alabama. Lived here all my life. We lived 2 streets over, and we was riding by, and we saw the shoes lining the street. So of course I assumed that it had something to do with the war. So I have a 14-year-old daughter that I wanted her to experience this situation because she's not too familiar.
And what do you think when your mom proposed that you just kind of pull over here? What was your reaction?
She has a brother that's 18, and she has a boyfriend that's 18, and I explained to her that there are 18-year-olds over there dying, and that could have been her brother or her. And then she says, well, why are they walking? Why are they not riding? I said, because the walk, I guess it is going to represent, so it just shows that you're standing, that you're behind it 100%, that you would put yourself out to walk that far of a distance, which is, I think, about a 3-hour drive from here.
How did you feel it went today?
So far, so good. I mean, it could have been worse. It looks like we're probably going to hit the 12 o'clock news here, and then we're going to probably hit the 6 o'clock news again tonight. And then tomorrow, we're going to walk across 2 major bridges along Highway 90 right there in Trent Lott's hometown. We've had a lot of people honking, a lot of people giving us a peace sign and all that stuff. And we tend to get a very positive reception from the black residents of Mobile. We've had a couple of very, very few hostile receptions, exclusively from white folks in Mobile. And then there's a lot of white folks that they seem a little disoriented by it, but not openly hostile, which I think is kind of a reflection of where the country is on this right now. I mean, overwhelmingly black people have opposed this war from the very beginning.
Later in the afternoon, we traveled to Codeine, Alabama, to the home of Mamie Mackey, a survivor of Hurricane Katrina. We set up camp and assembled to hear a group of local residents speak out about their experience of Katrina and their feelings about the war in Iraq.
And I know I travel a lot, and I go places, and they ask me, is it really that bad down there? And I say, yes, it is. And we just thank you all for thinking about us. Because, we were like the town that was cast aside and forgotten. Nobody's been to Codeine to see about us. We need help. When I say we need help spiritually, financially. We just need all source of any type of help that the government or the president would give us.
So y'all just pray that we can be as a family, work together, march together, that the president will see that we want our troops back home with their families because there is work to be done right here.
There are people that come from all over the country, and in fact, some people have come from outside the country to participate in this march.
As we began our second day of walking, it was evident that the march was getting plenty of notice. And the attention wasn't just from the local residents. We found that the press had begun to take notice as well.
What it's all about, folks. Recapturing the media. When the people of this country start saying that we're against it, they're going to start being against it too. As you can see from everybody that's along the sides of the street like this. All right.
We've got NPR is interested in this. CNN is coming down. We had 41 hits all over the country from the AP story yesterday and about 80 other stories from New Zealand to South Africa. So y'all are famous.
My husband called from Iraq while we were marching here, and he said thank you. Yes, he thanked us for doing it. You know, they all know, all of his people in his unit know what we're doing.
And they say?
And they say...
They say what?
They say we're crazy. But you know, they don't say we're crazy in a bad way. It's just like, hey, you people are odd.
We had a disaster in New Orleans, and the reason we're doing this is because there's still nothing going on, and while the Bush administration has trillions of dollars to destroy and rebuild Iraq, our cities along the Gulf Coast are not getting anything. Well, basically, what we're seeing is another reason veterans can relate to it so strongly is because it's like PTSD isn't just for veterans anymore. Everywhere you go on the Gulf Coast, people are just shocked, and it's honest to God post-traumatic stress disorder. It's no different to lose your home and everything you loved and worked for all your life than if you went to war and had your life shattered over there.
Wait a minute. Didn't W bomb with using depleted uranium? Now, doesn't that affect our own troops?
No.
Oh, of course not.
Hey,
They're just coming back with
these munitions are pinpoint accurate, buddy.
Oh, yeah.
There may be some collateral damage, but we're in a war. Depleted uranium shells go through steel that is real thick. It's needed.
Okay, we need to. And what about our troops coming back with the Gulf War syndrome then?
Well, they may have some problems. We'll take care of them. This is what we got the VA for, buddy.
Yeah, that's why we're cutting back the VA, right?
Yeah, that's why W is cutting the VA funds. Bring them on now, support them.
Guys, don't give them any media.
Tune in to Rush every day. Whoa. I love Rush.
A lot of people don't understand where depleted uranium comes from and what it is exactly. And basically what it is a toxic waste. We use the waste from our nuclear energy facilities and use that in our ammunition. But what's left over is basically a ceramic powder waste that gets in the atmosphere, gets coated the vehicles that are damaged, in the area that's damaged, and soldiers breathe that in, and Iraqis breathe that in. Their children are being born with horrible deficiencies and defects, and we have soldiers, veterans that are coming back that are having children without arms, without eyes. What's going to happen to us in 20 years? Am I safe to have children now that I've been to Iraq? of these guys that have gone 2 or 3 times, you know, they've got to think about their families as well.
And you know, there was a young man from Opelika, Alabama, who used to listen to Sean Hannity and Bill O'Reilly and all these other right-wing fanatics on the radio and believed everything they said. And after 9/11, he joined the military, you know, for the express purpose of going back there and taking revenge on all those brown people for what they did. You know, he got over there and he had an experience that transformed him, and he came back and became a member of Iraq Veterans Against the War, and his name was Douglas Barber. And Douglas Barber came back and was speaking out aggressively against the war to everyone he could find, and so he was doing the right thing, you know, but that transformation cost him a lot, because in the process of that transformation, he was also asking for help. And he went to the Veterans Administration system over and over and over again for 18 months before they would even disallow the diagnosis that he had a personality disorder. And he had to fight for 1.5 years against the VA to get them to acknowledge that the experience of spending 7 months in a place where 21,000 mortar rounds hit his compound in that period of time had something to do with the fact that he was disordered. You know? And then whenever they did treat him, and everybody here knows that PTSD is 70% counseling and 30% drugs if they're necessary, they gave him a fistful of 6 prescriptions and didn't give nary a counseling session to this young man. And right up until 2 days before the end, he was out speaking out against the war. And the last time I called his phone, there was a message on there and said, "I'll see you all on the other side." And here just about 3 months ago, this young man took his life. He took his own life. He tried to commit suicide by cop. He went on his porch after he called the police on himself with a shotgun. The police wouldn't accommodate him, and so he turned the weapon on himself and he killed himself. But Douglas Barber did not kill himself. This system killed Doug Barber. You know, and we want to make sure that that system doesn't kill any of these young people over here. You know, no more casualties during the war, no more casualties after the war. And so this particular stop today is dedicated to Douglas Barber. Now,
sorry. I see these pictures, I remember that we were children. And y'all were children too. I'm sorry.
Don't be sorry, man.
We're in Biloxi, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can you tell me there's not? Can I know there's not? Can I know that somebody's not looking for him? Whose hair dryer is that over there? Where did she go? What happened to her? Is somebody looking after her? Is she standing over there, you know, hoping that she'll get something that her taxpayer pays on my taxes should cover right now? We got money to spend, wreaking devastation that could be avoided somewhere else. This is not right. This is not right. And I'm proud of these veterans. They know what they're talking about. They've been there.
This was the first day we'd witnessed extensive hurricane damage, and everyone felt a shift in the tone of the march.
Well, everything in one day has changed. I mean, yesterday everything was cool. I mean, the march was beautiful. Had a nice surface to march on. Be careful. Watch out, there's a tree behind you. Then all of a sudden today, we're dealing with a hostile police force. We're dealing with a trail that's broken. It's almost like being off-road, you know. And we're dealing with a much longer march.
Yeah, they don't seem to be, the police here don't seem to be very friendly. They're probably maybe suffering from emotional problems stemming from the hurricane.
These policemen down here, you know, we're trying to win them over too. And for the last 6 months, their job has been very difficult here, so we have to understand that too. You know, elevate your acceptance and lower your expectations.
It's ironic that, you know, oftentimes even us, we consider ourselves progressive, but, you know, if we're honest with ourselves, oftentimes we feel uncomfortable around people of different cultures and nationalities, in particular the black community that I'm referring to. But all of a sudden today, I wish I was back in the black community because I'd actually feel safer at this point.
It was your job to remember it.
Oh, wait, I
know.
Jared, you see this? Front page, IVAW.
Dang.
The march got the whole front page just about all our membership in one of the pictures.
The Mississippi Press.
Everybody assembled over here real quickly, please.
Oh, heck, what are
Your right is the Veterans Administration Hospital. We'll be walking past.
As we walked past the hurricane-ravaged VA hospital in Gulfport, Mississippi, I took the opportunity to ask Stan Goff if he thought there might be any symbolic linkages between this hospital and the VA system as a whole.
This one's been destroyed by a storm. The other ones are being destroyed by underfunding. We have people that wait 6 months, 12 months, 18 months, 24 months to just get in to see someone in the VA. It's kind of an interesting new healthcare system where you get an appointment 8 months after you make it, at which point you either get well or you die. I don't know. New concept. I'm not completely familiar with it.
Why do you think they're gutting it?
Because they have other spending priorities, like a war.
Speaking of spending priorities, amid all the hurricane devastation, scenes like this were the only examples of construction that we came across.
Could be a condominium.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah,
for anybody that can afford a $200,000 apartment. That's what's being built. You don't see none of them, you don't see them working on any houses, at least I don't. It's an opportunity to drive the poor out and an opportunity for the rich to put more money in their pockets. And that's what the name of the game is, money. Money. Oh, hey, get a job. You know, it's statements like that there, you know. He's gonna yell out to me to get a damn job. He was probably over here, pussyfooting around here, getting piss-ass drunk on his mama's kitchen table, and I'm over there getting my leg blown off in damn Iraq.
Yeah, let's change it up.
This is James O'Keefe. He's going to run against Trent Lott. As a Democrat!
Yeah! Now we need to rebuild our men and women's homes and do what we can do. If we can rebuild someone else's in another foreign land, we need to take care of ours first.
How do you feel about the building up of the casinos right now Whereas we look around with all the destruction, you don't see any work being done to the residents' homes.
You want me to get in more trouble?
Yes, sir!
What's on your mind?
Well, you know, Trent Lott, went there and lobbied to get them more money to rebuild. And of course, I live down here and from down here, and I see in the newspapers, monthly, it says the casinos won this month 100 million, 98 million. Never have I seen where the people won.
And politicians are people. They're going to come out and say what they feel. And I'd invite Trent Lott to come out here and talk to us and see if he will. I'd be happy to let them debate as we walk, and then let the voters of this area decide. The sad fact of the matter is that they're disenfranchising poor black voters right now, and the message that he carries may not carry to them because they're disenfranchising them. They're disenfranchising them here in Mississippi, they're disenfranchising in Louisiana and Alabama. All through the Gulf Coast, they're disenfranchising voters.
After witnessing firsthand the neglect of residents along the Gulf Coast, one couldn't help but wonder if there was some level of calculation behind it.
Is what happened with Katrina incompetent, or is it calculation? I think initially it was incompetent, and I think now it's calculation. I mean, very clearly that there's such a crying need. I mean, you couldn't take the walk and the rides that we have in the last few days and not, just say, my God, look at this. I mean, it's been hit by an atomic bomb. We've got to go in here and fix it. And why are we not? And the federal government is sitting there pointing their fingers at this, that, and the other.
And now they want to drag their feet. There's thousands of FEMA trailers all along the Gulf Coast that are unoccupied. And people say it's because FEMA's incompetent. It's not because FEMA's incompetent. All you got to do is go to New Orleans and look at all the places that they've already bulldozed to the ground, and they've already started building $250,000 masonite homes over there. They've got developers and land speculators perched like turkey vultures all around that place right now. They're dragging their feet. FEMA's dragging their feet on behalf of the Bush administration right now, so all their business cronies can come in there and make a killing and collect valuable land at fire sale prices. They're dragging their feet because they don't want the majority of these people to come back.
You're going to leave behind a dramatically devalued property that somebody will show up and say, well, I'll give you 10 cents on the dollar. They'll buy that property, they'll turn around, they'll hold it until the government finally stops dragging your feet, gets the infrastructure back and then they can sell it for a great deal more money or redevelop it along the gerrymandering lines of racial division. Yeah, gentrification by another term. I mean, this is well understood by members of the African American community. They know exactly what's going to happen. New Orleans is going to be turned into a recreational city for wealthy white people.
This seems to be a pattern that emerges, especially whenever you're in communities that are predominantly black and predominantly poor. It seems to be a sort of a standard response. In some cases of neglect, and in some cases of something that looks like actual hostility.
We welcome you with open arms to sing, pray, whatever the Lord put upon your heart to do. And I say to you, you're welcome, welcome, welcome.
For 2 nights during our trek, we were hosted by African American churches. We were warmed by their hospitality and felt honored to be welcomed by an institution that decades earlier had given birth to the civil rights movement.
In the 1960s, there was a movement that came up in the South. And in fact, when we thought of this march from Mobile to New Orleans, the template or the idea that inspired us was the march from Selma to Montgomery.
My name is Tamara, and my husband is right now serving in Iraq. And I have to tell you that when he went there, I was heartbroken. And I was heartbroken for you people because before he went, the storm hit your coast, and he was at Fort Hood, and his superiors told him that they couldn't come down here and help you. They had to stay there, even though 5,000 of your own National Guard were in Iraq, and there was nobody to help you, and those in Fort Hood wanted to and could not. And God didn't send them to Iraq. A man did. And so us people have got to save them, bring them back, and let them save you, because that's what they were supposed to do to begin with. Thank you.
Sherwood was 30 years old. He left behind a 27-year-old widow and a 9-year-old son. But my family, you know, we're not alone. There's over 2,300 American military people that have been killed there. We don't even know how many of our Iraqis have been killed.
And, you know, one of the things that, you know, I thought about, I remember when George Bush said that he was the president of war, but he also said that he was a Christian. So I want to know, if you're a Christian, we don't serve the Prince of War, we serve the Prince of Peace.
Not an obligation or anything like that. For us, this is an honor. It's an honor. You're very fortunate if you go through life and have enough to get by. You're even more fortunate if you have the opportunity to actually go out there and participate in your own history. And I feel like we've been given an opportunity to participate in our own history. I missed it the first time around because I was making war on other people. And while I was making war on other people, there was a monumental historical struggle going on in this country at a point in time when we couldn't be here together the way that we are right now. It was against the law. Right here, it was against the law. So, you know, we can't say that nothing's been accomplished, because something's been accomplished or we wouldn't be here right now. But we ain't done yet. You know, we're far from done.
Now, what I want you to do for me, and as tonight, is look around the room, and I want you to see the true face of America.
Amen.
Where do we get the recent count today?
That's the last known count. It may be off, but...
We're going to march down this side of the road. First thing we're going to do is make a little loop here because the locals want us to see just what happened here. There was a 43-foot storm surge. Came right through here.
It's unbelievable, isn't it?
We're protesting the war, we're protesting the incompetence of our government. We're trying to highlight how this area is still devastated. I had probably 50 invitations for this weekend of places to be for the 3rd anniversary, that I'm coming out to support the vets because they've been so supportive of me.
You didn't get any of these?
What are those?
Seeds are playing along the way.
What kind of seeds?
Flower seeds, I imagine. Any little thing will help around here right now.
Yeah.
Don't you think? Anything to beautify the place?
All right, folks, it's hot out there. If you haven't already noticed, please fill up your canteens or whatever you got to carry water. If I find you without any water in your, when I come to pick you up off the ground, you're going to be in trouble.
I chose to hitch a ride in the medic van with Jose Vasquez, a conscientious objector and president of the New York chapter of Iraq Veterans Against the War. I asked him about his transformation from soldier to peace activist.
Well, as an undergraduate, I studied some Buddhist philosophy, and I practice meditation. So when I meditate, you know, I think about my role in the world and what am I doing to contribute to other people's suffering. Since I was a medic, I felt like, well, you know, I rationalized to myself that if I go to Iraq, I'll be saving lives, and maybe I'll even save some Iraqi lives. But then I realized later on that even if I was a medic, I'd still be contributing to the war machine, you know what I mean? And I'd patch somebody up, and then they'd go right back out and kill more people. And so I was directly involved in causing somebody else to suffer. It wasn't hard after that to feel like war of all sorts is wrong.
We're from the volunteer camp. You'll be staying in tonight in Slidell.
What were you able to just take time off to do this?
I sold everything I own and started a small not-for-profit to come down here.
Wow. That's dedication. I gotta have your picture.
Well, that's so, you know, like when your neighbor's house is on fire, you're not gonna, you know, you gotta turn on your hose.
We started out in Mobile a couple days ago, and we're marching to New Orleans. So,
Long walk.
that is a long walk, yes.
Yeah, it's a long walk.
Were you all affected by Katrina?
Sorry?
Were you all pretty bad affected by Katrina?
I lost everything.
Really?
Yeah, I lost my house, and 2 pair of clothes apiece, all they had left.
How do you guys feel about the march?
Do what you, it's a free country, you can do what you want to do. I don't give a damn.
This going on TV?
No, this is just for my own purposes.
I agree with you.
Iraq is on fire. We don't want to fight, so bring our soldiers on home.
Exactly.
I think it's making amazing progress. Look what's happened since August. The poll numbers are down for Bush and for the war. Even people in Congress are calling for the troops to come home. I think the grassroots movement in America will be effective and we'll get the troops home.
They're making armored vehicles over there, and they're giving us the peace sign.
Here you go, kind of explain what we're up to.
I don't think so.
Okay,
No.
anybody?
I like my job.
No one's trying to take away your job.
I think what y'all need to do, y'all need to speak to God and what God would say about it. God got us there for a reason, dude.
So you believe that there's a man in the sky that wants us over there?
You better believe it. You better
I believe
it.
I want to
Yeah.
save my family from being bombed when they go to school or the
Hey,
supermarket.
better to be there than fighting on our own land, dude.
You gotta
because
understand.
if you give it time, we would have war here on our own land.
They want
with them people. Them
really
people
believe
are
that?
crazy.
Yeah, they want
Because
to
their
kill us.
zeal is real, but they serving the wrong God. If they served the right God, they wouldn't even be
God do you
giving us
think
a
that
hard
is?
time.
They brainwashed.
They're brainwashed.
Yeah, from a child up, they take the kids from their own parents and make them to be this certain religion, man. They say they're gonna have all these women and virgins when they kill the West. We the Westerners.
Yeah, kind of like when people put their kids in
You
Catholic
read the
school or military
Quran, you read
academies.
that Quran, you see how right it is, dude.
We got religious extremists in America, and nobody is attacking us.
Nobody's oppressing them.
You don't think so? You
No.
don't think so?
No.
You need to go ask
their own kings and their
you need
own
to go ask
government
the
might
poor little
be.
children
but you
being
don't think
raped and
America
molested from them
is
sick pox.
economically oppressing those people?
No.
No.
If it wasn't up to them, if it wasn't up to us, they'd still be eating dirt and sand.
He said his God wants us to go to war, and then called the people in the Mideast religious extremists. So it kind of shows you what the mentality we have to get through to educate people.
That night of the hurricane, the next morning at 10 o'clock, the water came. Within 30 minutes, when we seen the water on the road, it was 7 feet in the house. We was in the attic chopping out. From there, we went up Judge Perez Drive in a flatboat. We even managed to run into a red light with the flatboat. So that'll tell you about how high the water is. We ran into a traffic signal with the flatboat. We run into a nursing home. We had 2 firemen, myself and the councilman. One of the firemen's father was in a nursing home. So he asked, let's check on my dad while we're going down. Well, when we backed the boat up in the drift, there was an old lady laying out. There had 34 people dead in the nursing home.
When you talk to hurricane survivors, under normal circumstances, a lot of people would be very reluctant to sit down and talk about very personal things with a complete stranger. And what we find is that people were so traumatized by this experience that it seems to be something they need to tell their stories. And it comes pouring out of them, almost as a compulsion. And people will come up to someone like us as a total stranger, and if we'll listen, they'll tell us everything that happened to them. And so, aside from just delivering the relief, I think it's important for us to give people an opportunity to talk about what happened to them. And it's also a way for us to give the rest of the country an opportunity to hear the stories of these people and understand. Because you're outside the region, since CNN and so forth quit broadcasting the daily images, a lot of people think, well, we saw Mardi Gras, everything is okay now. And people think everything's okay down here. And it's not okay. It's anything but okay.
Everybody outside of this country down here, they've forgotten. They have forgotten what's happened down here. Can you imagine with all the countries that we've gone into with humanitarian aid, and then they bite back at us? Now that I'm living down here, I know why. It's 6 months, just drive around. It doesn't take much to see what our government does down here.
We've got a lot of shallow promises. We've got a lot of hopes and dreams that are not being fulfilled. As we speak right now, there's probably about 350 trailers sitting on the railroad tracks right down the street from here. And we've got homeless people. We've got people that are devastated. They've lost their families, they've lost their houses, they've lost all their worldly possessions. And all they want to do is come back and try to recover something out of their lives. And the government is not letting them do it,
We all pay taxes, and I expect help when there's a problem. Long as there's no problem, we don't need the help, but this is what our taxes go for. Our taxes do not go to tear somebody down, to build them up. Our taxes should go to take care of us when we need the help.
The federal government spends thousands of dollars everywhere else to build up Iraq. We want them to live like us, so we're going to go over there and tear this stuff down, and then we're going to rebuild it for them. But we can't come over here where we have a natural disaster and build our stuff back.
After having been down here for 6 months, what I've learned is that we, the people, pulling together can get anything done. We can help bring back the South. We can help bring back the Goff. We can help bring back New Orleans, Sun, Bush, St. Bernard Parish, and we can help bring our boys back from Iraq.
There were protests in Turkey, there were protests in Iraq, there were protests in London. Trafalgar Square was filled with people. There are things that are going on all over the country,
So we're standing here in solidarity with millions of people all over the world who are saying, bring the troops home, end this nightmare.
Right now, we're walking into New Orleans.
Yeah, I think we're in the last stretch. I think we got 5 miles today, and I think just a little bit more tomorrow, and then we got the big ceremony tomorrow, and then and then we're all hitting the road.
the things that have happened to New Orleans with the floods that have happened here, with the sewage that came into the city, with the petroleum and chemical companies backing up into things, with mold that's growing, and the things that you'll be seeing along the roads here, which includes 3 of the major dumps, 3 of the places where all of the polluted and messed up stuff from New Orleans is being put into big landfills. We're going to be walking right by it.
If everything fell on its face tomorrow in New Orleans, we're on the border in New Orleans right now. If everything fell on its face during a rally, this would still be a success. And it don't have anything to do really if it has anything to do with the plan, it's like 10% to do with the plan and 90% to do with the quality of the people that showed up for this thing. It's just this attitude of taking care of each other and cooperation that's really made this happen. It just, if you get this kind of people together in these numbers, and keep them together this long, you know, mix in a little bit of hardship and austerity as a bonding agent, it seems to be like a magical formula. We got a lot of Iraq veterans here who are real fresh. They're real fresh from their experience, and some of them are hurting real bad. We've got one brother here that accidentally ran over a child and killed him with his vehicle on a convoy in Iraq, and he ain't dealing with it too well. And he's been telling people, no matter what I do, I don't feel like I'll come home. And he told somebody last night, he said, I feel like I'm coming home now. I don't care what else happens on this. You know? That's a success all right there. That might be someone that don't end up like Doug Barber did, you know. He can't quiet the voices in his head and ends up quieting the voices by eating a shotgun. You know, we might have saved lives here. We don't know. I get the feeling we might.
What I'd like to say is, coming home, I had to deal with a lot of anger and deal with a lot of things that I was remembering and recalling from my deployment. And I was just saying to Ahmadi last night that this is where I need to be. I realized that this is where I need to be. This is. I've been talking to social workers and psychologists at hospitals and things, but there's nothing like this. It's nothing just to get a handshake and a smile from another vet who I don't even have to tell him my story because I know that he can understand just by looking at me,
You know, I'm an atheist, but there's three things that I've learned to do that have helped me, and they're actually very old religious practices. But through IVAW, I've been allowed to confess. I go around and I talk about, you know, what I did in Iraq and how I lived my life previously. I repent and say that I'm not going to do it anymore. I'm a different person and I know it's wrong, so I'm not going to do it. And I atone, and I try to empower other veterans to do good, and I try to do good myself.
We arrived at our campground for the night, which was an athletic field in a predominantly Vietnamese community. The area had had no trash pickup service in the 7 months since Katrina.
I told you. You know what I told you 5 miles? I lied. You just walked 6.7 miles. Y'all done good.
As we settled into our campsite, some local residents approached us and said they wanted to show us something. We were taken to the back lot of the nearby Catholic church, where we found piles of relief supplies stacked behind police barricades. Okay, so what are we looking at here?
Well, this was set up as a distribution point. It was a private nonprofit organization working with FEMA to get this set up so that the church could be set up to distribute the supplies to the surrounding community. So what we're looking at is a variety of food supplies, cleaning supplies, and all that. And it's been sitting here for months, not being distributed, because FEMA won't allow the members of the community to do the distribution themselves. It needs to be FEMA workers that are distributing the material. FEMA doesn't have anyone that's willing to work in this community to do the distribution. So as a result, the food has just been sitting here for months, through the rain, through bad weather, and you can see on the tops of the crates it's just rotting, it's mildewing.
Look at the Gulf Coast. Where are these rebuilding companies begging the government to give them contracts? They could be building buildings here. They could be employing people here. They could be building houses here. It's not like the chances aren't there to make money. You could make money. Look at around here. Look at the houses. Tell me a roofer couldn't make a fortune fixing these roofs. Tell me that you couldn't have a garbage collector make a fortune. Look at this. There's companies that pick up garbage in Iraq. That's part of KBR's job in Iraq, is taking care of garbage. But they don't do it here. They choose to make a profit off of war. They choose to make a profit off of dehumanizing. They choose to make a profit off of killing. They choose to make a profit off of the death of U.S. soldiers. My friends, my brothers and sisters, they choose to make that profit instead of choosing to make a profit here where they could make a difference. The levees weren't the only thing that broke. Our democracy broke when that levee broke. Our democracy broke when that levee broke and drowned human beings while I was sitting in Iraq and could do nothing about it, while the largest National Guard division in the country, who's meant to do this, who did it during 9/11 at Ground Zero, we did this work. But we weren't able to do it here because we were in Iraq, because our equipment was in Iraq.
I saw a lot of footage. For about 4 or 5 days, I didn't know what was happening down here in the Gulf Coast. And then I watched it all in one day on the internet, and I wrote this poem. Katrina didn't burst the levees. I think it was a system we live in. I call it capitalism. They put blacks and Latins in prisons and send the poor to Iraq. And now there's not enough troops for the state to call back. And bodies are floating and not enough are revolting. And the stench of dead children smell like the streets of Baghdad, or corpses stacked in the street, zipped up in black bags. And the black gold of the Middle East lets you capitalists thrive. And poor blacks in New Orleans rot in the streets and die. You sent troops to free Iraqis from the blood in their veins. You sent troops to liberate Afghan skulls from their brains. You sent troops to bring peace to Fallujah with your jet bomber planes. And no troop can stop a hurricane, but these deaths are insane. The Red Cross ain't our solution. We need food, water, and revolution.
You see waste when you look at this? Is this a waste?
Oh yeah, I see waste because you don't know. I mean, it stops the family line. The Mitchell family name's gonna die after this generation because my son's not gonna have any children. What would my son have done with his life? What would his children have done?
What was your son's name?
My son was Sergeant Mike Mitchell. He was born February 27th, 1979, and he joined the Army in 1997 after his high school graduation. Spent almost 7 years in the Army, and went to Iraq in May 2003 after mission was accomplished, part of that stabilization force, and he was killed in action. First man in his company to be killed in action 2 days before he was headed back to Kuwait. It's just a crime, and I realize my son was a very special young man, but through my work, I've met too many parents. I know Casey, I know Sherwood, I know Ken, I know these young men and women that have died, and they're all special, and it's just so unnecessary.
What we're doing keeps their memories alive, and I know Bill and I feel confident that I can speak for Bill on this. We don't want any more people dying just because Casey and Mike are dead. George Bush says we have to complete the mission to honor their sacrifices. Bill and I want Casey and Mike's sacrifices honored by bringing the troops home. And we want their deaths to count for peace and for justice and for love, not for killing and not for hatred and not for fear.
The people are really dehumanized in the eye of the soldier, and the soldiers are dehumanized in the eye of the Iraqi civilians.
See, Iraqi people are not known as people to most American soldiers. They're Hajis. See, in Vietnam you had Gooks, which were the Vietnamese people. In Iraq you have Hajis, which are the Iraqi people. And so once they become Hajis to people and to soldiers, they are no longer human beings. And oh, that's what happened to that Haji. Oh, that's funny as hell. You know, I can tell you a story. I was sitting in a briefing one time, and it was briefed that 3 civilians were killed because they were their vehicle was shot at because they approached the checkpoint too quickly. And a colonel turns around to all of his subordinates and says, well, if those Hajis learned to drive, that shit wouldn't happen. That's what a colonel said. And then you wonder why a private has the attitude he has when he's scared out of his mind.
I see in a lot of ways how a lot of innocent people die, especially in Iraq with different procedures that we use as far as traffic control points and things like that. You know, there was a 14-year-old kid, I guess he had just learned to drive not too long ago, and he just came speeding at a checkpoint, and what else were they to do? And it made me realize that our presence in Iraq is a hostile presence, and that because we're always on guard and trying to protect ourselves, we hurt people just in that, trying to protect ourselves when sometimes there's no threat there. And I started to look at the individual people and really to see them as people, because despite what the military says that they give us briefings on culture, 15-minute briefings on a culture that goes so deep. I mean, like 20 centuries, like 15 minutes won't do it justice. The rest of my life won't do it justice.
Sometimes Iraqis would speak a little English, and I remember one Iraqi man came up to me and he said, why did your president lie to us? I don't have milk for my babies, my kids don't have shoes on their feet. Like, we thought things were going to get better and things are worse. And, what do you say to that? There's nothing I could say to that. What am I supposed to say? Oh, well, we're here to bring you freedom, so you better thank us. So it kind of just my position there in the military made me feel kind of ashamed at times. Most people in the military are poor, working class. Most people that we're going over and killing are poor, working class. So it seems to me like the people that we're fighting as a nation are the wrong people. I think most of the people in the military have a lot more in common with the Iraqi people, that they're there to subjugate and to perpetrate violence upon. I think we have a lot more in common with them than we do with the people who are making us fight these wars.
Keeps on raining, levee's going to break. If it keeps on raining, levee's going to break. And the water gonna come and I have no place to stay. Well, all last night I thought
I've never seen anything like this, not in America. I mean, in other places, yeah. It's very reminiscent of a war zone in some way. The burnout things, the things just falling over, trash, debris everywhere.
If it keeps on raining, levee's gonna break. If it keeps on raining, levee's going to break. When the levee breaks, have no place to stay. Meet old
These people come from Maine, Hawaii,
Y'all
Texas.
all the way from Mobile, and y'all walk in here? Yeah, they worrying about a wreck. How y'all gonna get back? Walk back?
Oh, we're gonna fly and then get there.
Bring them home now. Bring them home.
Bring them home, bring the money to New Orleans. Let's rebuild the Gulf Coast and get out of Iraq.
Yeah, you're right.
How many people have we picked up along the way, do you know?
No idea. They're just kind of coming in from the streets. But the energy is crazy. My goodness.
Is this what you envisioned when you were helping put this together?
I have no idea what this will look like. I had no idea. It has exceeded all my expectations. Exceeded all my expectations.
Make levees, not bombs! 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 I'm leaving here again. Yes, I'm going back home to stay. Yes, I'm going to continue to go. No more war! No more war! No more war! What is it good for? Absolutely nothing. Say it again, y'all. What is it good for? Absolutely nothing. Listen to me.
The rally that welcomed the march to its final destination in New Orleans was a time to celebrate, but for many it was also a time for reflection. Reflection about what had been accomplished and what had been learned by walking all those miles, seeing all those sad scenes of destruction, and listening to the voices of all those people we met along the way. The march may have been foremost a political statement, but it was also a way of grounding ourselves in the reality of life in war and in disaster. And in connecting the war in Iraq with the devastation and neglect in the wake of Katrina, the march was drawing attention to something bigger than just right and left, Republican and Democrat.
It's a system that created the vulnerability and the poverty and the disfranchisement that created a situation where some people escaped from a hurricane and other people had to stay there and die in their, hiding in their attics from the floodwaters. It's a system that does that, and the same system causes working class kids to make economic decisions to go in the military and be made into instruments of U.S. foreign policy to go over there and engage in illegal and immoral wars of aggression against other people.
Once again, this is not a moral failure of the Bush administration. It's a system, y'all. It's a system. And we're not trying to overthrow the Bush administration. We're trying to overthrow the system. And if we want to see people say, well, what do you want to replace it with? I'll tell them what you replace it with. You replace it with this right here. This is what community and democracy is supposed to look like right here.
Somehow you learn to love me, and I found what